How do you make a threshold less threatening? Whether it's an entrance to a library or an entrance to a theater or an entrance to an opera, it's often a very imposing dividing line and tells us a lot about society, who feels they are entitled to cross over. And many of us feel uncomfortable in different places. I can tell you where I feel uncomfortable. But as an architect, how do you break that down? Or do you? Is that part of your job?
Yes, I think it is a part of what we do. That's not to say that we don't want to be bold or courageous, but threatening is another kind of euphemism that I wouldn't say would be appropriate necessarily for a public space. But in any case, in the opera in Oslo, we've made it such that you can walk with your dirty tennis shoes or your dog onto the roof of the opera. Yeah. So there's a sense of being able to place your own feet, your own shoes with your dog or whatever onto a building that gives you a sense of ownership. So at a certain point, you no longer see the building as an architect's building, but as your own building, as if you were in your own living room. In the World Trade Center project in New York that we're working with currently, there's an important need to draw people into a somewhat psychologically traumatic place. And so we're creating a building in which is not reflective like a mirror, but allows for reflection so that you can see characteristics of yourself in the facade of the building. So you're seeing yourself projected back onto yourself. So there's a way of drawing the human body into the building. And of course, there's so many other things I could speak for hours, but light, the movement of the sun. If you can feel the movement of the sun in a space, you connect with the world around you in a very direct and very simple way that makes you feel good about where you are. So these kinds of things.
Is that how you've found some place of consensus about the memorial building between those who want it to be about them and their own personal lost people and those who want it to be a space for everybody and for all time?
Yeah, there's a conflict there in that particular project where there's certain people that require it to be about the past and others that require it to be about the future. We like to think that the building is in fact the link between those two worlds. It's about the present. It's about daily life in the city. And as you look into it, you're able to see the former steel of the original towers, and as you look away from it, you're able to see the reflections of the trees in the building and so on. So the place is about your existence at the moment and allows each person to draw their own conclusion about how they want to see it.
Some people certainly miss the tallness of the towers and I kind of appreciate that. I don't have to sort of crane my neck to experience.
That's important to us. It's the only building in this part of Lower Manhattan that you can see all at once without moving in any particular direction. So it's entirely within your frame of perspective. And that intimacy is valuable in New York City. I always say that intimacy is one of the greatest luxuries you can have in New York City. It's not really a city of intimate places. It's a wonderful city, but it's not delicate in that sense.
The moment of politics, will it ever get built?
Yes, absolutely. It's being constructed now. In fact, there's civil work on the site. There's steel being purchased. We're delivering the construction documents now, and cladding is being ordered. So you'll see a building in 2011.
Intimacy. How the heck do you make a building, particularly a monumental kind of building, intimate?
Well, we always question the word monumental. We would like to say that monuments of the past no longer are valid in contemporary society. Monuments in the past were things that you looked at, or you photographed them, or you took away an image of them, and then you went on with your life. A contemporary monument can be a social monument, which is a place that you interact with, and what you take away is not necessarily an image of the object, but a memory of your experience there. So we're trying to create places that allow for memories to exist.
Does that explain some of the landscape projects that I've seen, some of the Civic Arts Center and some of those?
Yes, landscape is a key issue for how we understand place. We don't separate those two worlds, architecture and landscape, or interior architecture either. All of us work together in one space. So we are architects, landscape architects, and interior architects all developing a concept together. Sometimes we even have landscape architects drawing buildings, or architects drawing landscape architecture, or interior architects messing around with everything. So there's no particular rules. We like to call ourselves transdisciplinary.
That's like transgendered, only different.
Exactly. It's meant to suggest that we're not necessarily about interacting, but we're really about blurring the definitions, that you can't tell whether it should be called architecture or landscape.
Oh, it's so
interiors.
fun talking to you, Craig. I mean, it makes me want to wish that, you know, you and people like you were going to be deciding the buildings that are made in this period going forward. Do you have any sense of whether the aesthetic that you're bringing to your work is shared by those who would, I mean, are you seeing stimulus money? Are we going to benefit from your thinking as we move forward?
Well, in general, I think the question could be answered generally first, and that is that we are seeing many more architecture practices and design practices operating in the way that we do. The notion of the classic modernist or the old world modernist, which is built up on a hierarchical structure with a genius at the top and a body of slaves below, carrying out the pencil sketches for the world.
That's the old Ayn Rand model of an architect,
Exactly.
Right?
And again, I'm not saying that that's necessarily wrong. I'm just saying that it hasn't adapted well to the changes that we're seeing in society. So I suggest that probably in the future you'll see more younger groups of architects taking on similar forms as what we represent. In terms of us specifically, well, we work with a lot of cultural projects, so obviously government and stimulus money will be directed towards those projects, so I imagine we'll be affected by that. We're coming from Norway, actually. Our home office is in Oslo, so we started there 20 years ago.
And we should say you came from California and decided to be part of the Oslo part of your firm.
Yes, we created a group together after we won the Alexandria Library in 1989, which was many years ago. We spent 12 years making that project, and since then we've been creating a culture which we feel is very unique inside of Norway and inside of Scandinavia. We're bringing that here.
Could you make something there that you didn't think you could make here?
Well, yes, certainly it's been a challenge to adapt to life in North America. I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm not born here originally, but my father is American. And I've spent most of my life in Europe, and I've decided in a way, after winning the World Trade Center Commission, to see if there's a chance that we can adapt our sensibilities of culture and work culture in the United States and in North America, and it hasn't been particularly easy.
Could we not maybe hope that perhaps U.S. culture might adapt in the moment of crisis?
I hope so. I think that Americans need to come to terms with what it is that they find important. In this particular case, the way in which you work is more than just a workplace that you collect your salary. It's your livelihood. So we try to create a sense of livelihood within the office. We're unionized internally, so all of our economic issues are transparent. We publish salaries for everyone in the company. There's no sort of backstabbing. We try to promote regular work days with 5 weeks of vacation days, in addition to the national holidays. But it's been hard to manage that here because our clients don't have that same sensibility, so they're pushing all the time, and we're saying, let's slow down.
What about the external pressures? Is there a different attitude, for example, to public space elsewhere than here? Here, often the concern is security.
Yes, but we found that in many places as well. Egypt, of course, was even more profound in terms of security issues when we were building there. So notions of security exist, I think, in many, many places with regards to public space. I think more importantly, what we're looking at is the development of public space that is unusual or characterizes other things besides the standard notion of what makes a city in terms of rectilinear streets or specific categorized areas. We like to merge things together, nature and urbanism
Does
together.
Does that explain some of the designs that we're seeing, yours and others, that are more tubular, more smooth, less cube-based?
Yes, some of those projects are very soft and organic in appearance, the ones that you're referring to, especially, for example, Abdulaziz project in Saudi Arabia. And those are actually designed from a very interesting set of programmatic tools. We have computers that we feed parametric data into regarding the climate, and the climate at a certain level forms those buildings. So the direction in which the wind blows, the direction in which the sun moves, these kinds of things, together with the psychological and cultural characteristics, create the final design.
Oh, Craig Dykers, great talking to you. You can find out more at our website. Snohetta is the firm. I look forward to continuing the conversation sometime soon.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're watching GRITtv.